Hello my beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today we are talking about build your own palettes. That's right, ColourPop has announced they are officially bringing back the build your own palette feature on their website, which you may know, if you've been around this channel for a little while, is one of my favorite things. I have a whole BYOP playlist that's build your own palette playlist. I've actually curated a few palettes officially for ColourPop on their website a few times throughout the past. All in all, I love the BYOP feature. I'm so glad it's coming back. I'm here today to give you some palette inspo if you want to create your own palette. I have created 3 different 12-pan palette color stories here. So a couple of things to note. First of all, they haven't announced the pricing yet, so I'm not sure what exactly the build your own palette pricing is going to look like. I don't know which sizes they're going to be offering. In the past, they've had 9-pan palettes, these 12-pan, which is what I'm going to focus on today. This is just my favorite size. And then they also have the big palettes that hold 24 shadows. So I don't know what the prices are going to be. I don't know what sizes they're going to have. I don't even know which magnetic palette styles are going to be available. I really don't know a lot, but I'm pretty sure that they're not introducing any new singles. I have a feeling that they may just restock things that are currently out of stock, because I'll put up their Instagram caption right here. Actually, this is one of my photos. So this is a palette in this post. This is a color story I created, and it is one of the ones you're going to see in the video today. So this Instagram post says that there are 90 shades to choose from, and today, as I am sitting here filming before this feature comes back to the site, there's only a little over 60 shades currently in stock in the singles. So this caption leads me to believe that they will be restocking some of the shades that are currently out. However, just in case they don't, all of the shades in my palettes that I'm going to show you today, these inspiration palettes, are ones that are currently in stock. So even if they don't restock the old shades, you would still be able to recreate my inspo palettes if you wanted to. So the build your own palette feature is coming back on Tuesday, January 11th at 10 a.m. Pacific time. Probably some of the shades will sell out, especially the really in-demand shades like the duochromes, glass bull, and that type of thing, which is one of my favorites. So if you are very, very interested in this, I would say, you know, I'm not trying to create hysteria and give you FOMO or anything, but I would expect some of the more popular shades will probably sell out. So just keep that in mind. These palettes that I'm showing you, this is just inspiration that I made up. You're not going to be able to buy these palettes like already put together for sale on the ColourPop site like you have with some of my creations in the past. But I'm pretty sure you'll be able to use my discount code for these palettes. I'm not 100% sure. Some things they do end up deciding to exclude affiliate code use. So you can always just give it a shot. My code is Amanda. It is an affiliate code, so I do earn a commission. Thank you to everybody who chooses to support the channel in that way. And this affiliate code will save you 10% on most things on the ColourPop site. We'll check when this actually goes live, and I'll put a note in the description box for you. Let's talk about the palettes I created. I have 3 very different color stories here. I wanted to do something different, so none of these are just a straight up, you know, neutral palette or a dupe for any other palette. These are just little color stories I came up with that I thought were cute and were different. The one thing you're going to notice is I'm not using any of the pressed glitter singles in my palettes. I just don't like them. I don't like to really promote them. If you love them, you can always pick one of those and swap out the shades if that's your thing. They're just not my thing. I love a mix of textures. I like a good ratio of mattes to shimmers. I really like some surprising shifty shades or duochromes, and I like to have light, medium, and deep shades in all of my palettes. Some are more neutral, some are more colorful, but those are the type of things that you're going to see throughout. Just when I'm designing palettes, that's how my brain works. So let's start with the first one. This is definitely the tamest color story that I'm going to show you today. If you are not interested in branching out into a lot of color, if you're not interested in really bold color stories, this is probably going to be the one for you. And this color story is inspired by this magnetic palette, this little butterfly palette. So here are the shades inside. I'm going to show you a close-up look at this palette, and I'm also going to show you swatches of all of these shades together. That way you can see what these look like as a whole color story, and you can also see the shade names. For each one of these palettes, I'm going to show you a close-up like this with the shade names on top. That way you can see the shades, the layout, and the specific shadow names all at once. So if you're interested in recreating a palette, I recommend pausing during this part and taking a screenshot. That way you can get all of that information all at once. I also want to show you the complete color story swatched all together. That way you can get a feeling for the whole vibe. And if there are any shades that you want to swap out, especially if you have a different skin tone than me, you may want to go a little bit deeper, but you can use this as a reference for the whole color story. And then for each palette, I'll also show you close-ups like this with the shade names again. That way you can see what these look like actually applied to the skin, because they can be quite different than what they look like in the pan. And I also want you to get a feel for the texture and the shifts. So we'll do this same swatch scenario for each one of the palettes. I know this may not seem super exciting, this butterfly palette, but I really did intentionally lay it out this way. All of the lighter corally peachy shades are on this side, and then all of the deeper, more like royal berry purple shades are on this side. So if you wanted a light, more peachy look, you could just use these. If you want a deeper, richer, more purpley look, you could just use these. But I also laid them out so that each row could be used cohesively for an eye look. That way it's really user friendly and all of the shades can work really well together. Of course, you don't have to use it that way. When I chose this layout and designed this color story, that's what I had in mind for this one. Let's move on to what I think is kind of the medium palette. This is the most Amanda of all of them in that it is half really bright colors and half more neutral, whereas the first palette was a lot more safety zone, comfort zone kind of colors, and the last one is all bright colors. This one is really in between. It's the one that I'm wearing on my eyes today. Here's the color story. I definitely think of this as like, you could wear this to work or you could just be a mermaid. Either way, you know, this is 9 to 5 mermaid. This is I'm a mermaid on the weekends. Have you seen the video where I rearranged my little square 5-pan palettes? I gave all of those really crazy names. I should have done that with these. I just didn't think about it in the moment. So this palette was actually really inspired by this shade, Glass Bowl, which is one of my favorite ColourPop singles. It has been for many years, and I don't really see that changing. But it's a brown to blue duochrome, so I wanted to do a blue palette with a pop of brown, you know, kind of in the face of that pop of blue effect palette that we've all complained about many times over the years. I wanted this to sort of be the opposite of that. You know, I couldn't resist a little pop of orange. I do like to wear orange with blue, and I also couldn't resist more purple because I love my purples, and I just think that this color story could give you so many different types of looks. So let's take a close-up look at this palette. I'll show you the shade names, the swatches. You know the whole thing. You know the deal. Let's look at my blue with a pop of brown palette now. Or what did I call it? I'm a mermaid on the weekends palette. Now, if you don't have my same affinity for purple, you could always swap out Silver Lining and Eris for something that's green instead of purple, and you could still keep these same mermaidy type of vibes. I just am always drawn to purple, and I think that these shades work really well with Glass Bowl, with the oranges and the blues. But you could easily swap those purpley shades for something green. I think that would look really nice. You could also put in some neutrals in that place if this is maybe a little bit too much color and not enough neutral for you. But I think this has a really nice balance because those purple shades, particularly Silver Lining, are just such approachable purples, and they're very comfy for people who are more neutral lovers. Eris is a little bit more bold and out there, but you could always apply Eris all over the lid and then put the most on top of it to tone it down a little bit. So if you wanted to do a more neutral look, you can pull these shades. You could also easily pair these with the purples and do just like a little bit colorful, a little bit neutral look. Same thing with the blues. This shade really ties everything together, but I think you could get so many different types of looks out of this palette. What draws me to this color story, even though I'm not a huge blue eyeshadow type of girl, in this context with these comfy warm neutrals, with my beloved purples, with my beloved glass bowl single, these blues feel very intentional, they feel exciting, and hey, I mean, I am wearing a bright, bright turquoise eyeshadow, and I love it, and it feels totally comfortable and normal. So, you know, I may also become a mermaid on the weekends now because this palette has inspired me. Since this is the one that I'm wearing today, I actually did film a little eyeshadow tutorial so that you can see what I mean with these shades working really well together. So I'm going to show you a quick look using this little curated palette, and then we'll move on to my final palette inspo for the video. I'm starting with the ColourPop Party Proof Primer to sort of get my eye base started. This isn't going to replace my paint pot, but I do actually really like it. Next, I'm going to mix Wake Up Call and I Owe You. If you want something more neutral, you could just use Wake Up Call and leave out the orangey shades. And then I'm going to go in with Mambo, which is a deeper orange. And if you wanted to stay more neutral, you could use Get Crackin' for this step instead, because I am just deepening up that outer crease area and sort of blowing out the transition shade so that that warmth will peek through. Next, I'm taking Formation and I am packing that on the inner 2/3 of the lid with a flat brush. If you wanted to do a purple look, you could do Eris for this step instead of Formation. These matte, colorful shades from ColourPop are such nice quality. This is packing on so easily. I didn't have to use any additional primer to get that really intense coverage. Then I'm going in with Glass Bowl. I first laid down a layer of Glass Bowl just applied with my finger, and then I'm going to use my Pretty Fresh Mist with Glass Bowl on my flat packing brush. I just used the same brush that I used for that Formation shade. That way it kind of mixed those pigments together and gave me a really shifty, shimmery turquoise shadow look, and that setting spray really activates the shimmer. Now I'm just going to go back and add a little bit more depth, make sure that the transition area and the lower lash line has a nice blend. Then for the inner corner, I'm mixing Heavenly and Glass Bowl. I'm sure you've noticed that I did a lot of mixing of my shadows, whether that was to get the right undertone, the right depth, the right finish. Don't be afraid to mix two shadows together because that will give you endless possibilities, even with a smaller 12 pan palette like this. This is my last palette idea. This is definitely the brightest and the boldest of the three. I know that's really saying something after I showed you a whole bunch of blue in the last one, but you know, we're out here growing, we're branching out in the new year. And even though this palette is very bright, I still think there's something very approachable about it. So let's take a look. Here's the color story. Not really much neutral to be found unless you want to count like a metallic gold as a neutral, that could be a neutral. But overall, this is very bright orange, yellow, pink. There's a whole little green trio in here. This is like an even more intensely neon and tropical version of the Lush Life palette, which I love. So it's no wonder that I'm drawn to these really bright, lush, like joyful tropical vibes. Now I'll show you the swatches and the shade names for this palette. Let's take a look at those now. I intentionally did not include any white, cream colored, or matte black shadows in any of these palettes. Typically, I just think most of us makeup lovers have those many times over elsewhere in our collection. But I do think this palette in particular is a good place to drop a couple of those in if this is a little bit too much bright for you, or if this isn't light enough or deep enough for you. You could swap out a couple of these shades for a white or cream colored matte and a matte black, and that would really work well in the context of this particular palette, because these types of shades can be so easily mixed with a matte white or a matte black to make them deeper or richer or lighter, brighter. They can be layered on top of a black or white base to change how they look on the eye. So this palette would be a great one, especially if this is a little too much color for you, to toss in a couple of those basics. While I was telling you about the very first palette, the butterfly one, how I laid it out in rows of 4, this one's a little bit different. It's definitely more curated in trios and columns. Even though it's really bright, it's still really user-friendly in that they're grouped pretty easily. If you wanted a bright orange and yellow look, this is a bright corally pink look, a bright green look, a really deep reddish pink look. And of course, you don't have to use it that way. You can split it up into little 6 pans instead. You can look at it as quads, whatever works for you. But I did really intentionally organize these in trios because I know a color story like this can be really intimidating, especially if you're not used to a lot of color. So a little monochromatic trio is an easy way to cope with a really bright color story like this. Those are just 3 ideas to get you started. If you wanted to build your own palette but you weren't sure where to start, which direction to go with, or if you just get easily overwhelmed by all the colors on the site, I hope that this was fun and helpful. And if you already have a lot of single shadows, you could pull from what's already in your collection and recreate these color stories with what you already have too. It's all about just finding new color combinations, playing with makeup, enjoying it, and just having a good time. That's what I'm doing. I hope that's what you're doing too. I would love to hear what you think about the palettes I created. Are you going to be building your own palette? Do you have any favorite shades? I always love to hear what you think about things too. So make sure you leave all your thoughts down in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Ooh, I'm too close. Back, I say. Been around this I've actually curated a few what? BYO, please let me know which eyeshadows you get. BYO, please use my code. BYO, please tell me which one was your favorite. Okay, where was I? She is turquoise. People in the comments are always like, you always do neutral looks, you never do colorful looks. Me. Okay, these are way too similarly packaged because I just shot the clip for my tutorial with the eyelash curler and this instead of my mascara. These are way too similar. This is what happens. The world is thrown into chaos when I'm not using my paint pot. I'm always a little bit extra weird when I wear blue eyeshadow. It just like kind of throws my game off, but you know what? I'm still here for it. I really like this look. I would 100% wear this just in regular life. Who is she? Because I like her. Whew. I've been so out of practice filming This weekend is sort of my first back to normal filming since before Christmas, because I pre-filmed a bunch of videos so that I still wouldn't miss uploads, but that I could take some time away for the holidays. So I pre-filmed and pre-edited a bunch of videos, and I just popped in here and there to film a couple of ColourPop like new release things, but I've actually not really sat down like this and truly filmed a video where I talk to you in a really long time. So it's fun to be back. I hope I am easily going to get back in the groove of things, because as nice as it was to take a break, it's also good to be back. It's good to just be talking to you again and playing with fun makeup with you again, and we're going to have an awesome year together. I'm glad you're here, and I love your face, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye!